Yo, what's going on? It is 1 p.m. here in Crystal Lake, Illinois. That means it's time for another live stream. Today is Monday, September 29th. Almost at the end of the month here. Almost time for Chicago Marathon. And it's really hot. Today, the high is 87 degrees, is what I heard on the radio. And it'd be 80 by the lakefront, which is where Chicago Marathon would be in a couple weeks. Less than 2 weeks now, right? But yeah, it's hot. I don't feel like it's 87, but it's in the high 70s for my run today. I just got back. I'm still kind of sweaty and gross. But I didn't want to miss the live stream again because I missed it last Thursday. Nothing was wrong. Hopefully no one was worried. I had 2 interviews scheduled on Thursday and I was running really late and I was trying to get a video done. And so I was like, all right, if I publish this now, I can hurry up and go get a workout done. My interview isn't until 2:00. My first of 2 in a row. And I was like, all right, so I have time. And then I completely forgot that it was Thursday, even though I remembered it was Thursday for the interview, but I forgot it was Thursday for live stream. So I got my days and times all confused. So I apologize for that, but we're back and we're here today. And I've got a couple of unboxings, all things that I bought myself. So that's new. That's unusual. So that's something special for today. All right, guys, before we get into it, let's add everyone listening on the audio only version on the podcast. Hopefully you guys are bringing enough hydration still. You got to run like it's summer still. So hopefully you brought a lot of extra fluid. And for everyone else watching this later but not live, welcome to the #1 drive time radio show for runners. And hopefully your dishwashing after dinner is going well. All right. James says, hey, co-fam, fingers crossed I'm going on a running adventure in Morocco. Well, fingers crossed for that. I went to Morocco earlier this year. Hopefully you're going in the winter because otherwise it's really, really hot. It's hot. It was hot there while I was there. Although it depends on where you go. If you're up in the mountains, it's going to be cold, but hopefully you enjoy. Deezer Aperture ran the Chicago Lifetime half yesterday with my wife. Got a PR by 1 minute. Nice. Sorry, that was loud. 1 minute PR, but man, was it hot out there. Yeah, yesterday was hot too. Although like I ran yesterday and it was a little bit cooler than like things had been, but I ran early in the morning. And I think we're at the time of the year where the high will be really high. The mornings are a little bit chilly. They're like nice. Like today when I let the dog out at like 6:00 in the morning, I went out with her with like a zip up hoodie on. And so early mornings are okay. But I'm still worried about Chicago. Is it too early to look at the weather for Chicago or what is it? Soy says it's taper week for a lot of folks. What's y'all's go-to carb load food? So here, I've been thinking about it a lot. I feel like I just need to eat candy. Is candy a bad carb load food? It's all carbs at this point, right? If you're carb loading, because candy I could eat all day long. I don't have much of a sweet tooth, but I guess if it's around, I'll eat it. Are potato chips a carb load food? Because if that's true, then I could eat a bag of Doritos like nothing. Maybe that's what I need to start doing. When I was in Tokyo, I stopped by so many 7-Elevens on the way to stuff. So I would have had like a little bag full of onigiris. And I love those. Those are really good. So that's kind of what I've been eating lately, you know. Frank says candy has too much fat usually to be a carb load food. Okay. I was watching someone else's video today. I forget her name. She has less than 1,000 subscribers. I think she's British. Lately, guys, I've been having a hard time hearing the difference between certain British accents and certain Australian accents. That's just my American ear coming into it. Maybe not. Maybe that's just my ear. Maybe most Americans can't tell the difference. Sometimes I have a hard time. But anyway, this person went to Berlin. And I've been watching a lot of people's Berlin videos. Everyone complains about how hot it was because it was hot. But she was carb loading with what was she eating a lot of? I forget. Oh, she was eating some sort of cookie. It looked like a Tim Tam. It came in that kind of container, but it wasn't a Tim Tam. And she's like, there's 19 grams of carbs each cookie. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot. And then she was like, so that'll be a lot of carbs. And then, of course, I bought bagels. And she bought like New York style bagels, quote unquote, in Berlin. And I'm like, I guess a bagel is like 50 grams of carbs. But if you ate 3 of those cookies, that's more. Like if you really want to get bang for your buck carbs wise, eat the cookies. I feel like cookies. I don't know. And Frank says the best carb macro ratio is almost always in liquids. That's true. Can I just drink Mountain Dews? I could chug those. I could chug a lot of Mountain Dew, I think. I feel like I don't understand why in the ultra space, flat Coke is the thing where I don't know. Flat Coke was delicious when I is delicious when I run ultras, but I also feel like Mountain Dew would be great. I feel like that could work. All right, Fionor says Mark wants to know his butter a carb. And Vanessa says Doritos have 18 grams of carb per serving. So imagine if you had a regular full-size bag, not the mini lunch bag, not the bigger snack size bag that they sell at the gas station, but a regular bag. I think I could eat a whole bag of that. I think I normally do when I travel. I usually bring a sleeve of Pringles with me if I'm traveling domestically and I don't worry about flying with the food, because those could sit in my suitcase and they won't get smushed. But I'll eat a whole sleeve at once. I could eat a whole bag of Doritos. I think I could do that. How many servings are in a bag of Doritos? I feel like I do all my Doritos. I know Doritos doesn't sponsor running, but if they did, I mean, I feel like I could be all my carb load. This carb load brought to you by Doritos, Cooler Ranch. You know? All right. Funeral 1977 says, all right. If they say think and free for think and three, they're British. Think and free. What did the Australians say for those words? I don't know. Herm says, what's going on, Herm? He says, I was slamming dews during the 50 miler. And I bet you it was delicious, right? I mean, it's called Mountain Dew, right? So it should work in a trail situation. Richard Wilson says, I love Coke and Ultras, not flat. Induce the burp. I feel like the burp is nice when you're running a lot. Don't you think? Cake Bud says, the only time I drink sodas is Ultras. It just hits. It's really good. And I feel like we're talking about liquids being a great way to get in carbs. Like, can't I carb load with sodas too? Does it have to be like the hyperhydration or like a Martin 320? Like, can it just be? Can I carb load with Mr. Pibb? That's what I want to know. Jinzo says, yo, what's up, Kovizy? What's the top go-to super shoe at the moment and why? I just filmed the review for the Metaspeed Ray, and I love that shoe. And then I compared it to the Puma Fast R3 because both shoes are ATPU, very lightweight, and $300. I like both of them. Those are kind of top of mind. I also ran Sydney in the Metaspeed Sky token. See, these are all the shoes that are missing. Evo 2 is missing up there because I'm still filming the product shots for all those. But those are some fun ones. I like the Metaspeed Ray because it compresses a ton. I like a running shoe that's like a crumple zone up front, but then it also decompresses quickly too, which is what makes it fast and not mushy. So it's super light, disappears on your feet, but also it's like super fun squishy on the bottom. Daniel says ramen noodles are not bad for you too if you hit the carbs and sodium at the same time. You hit the SARB because you hit the carbs and sodium at the same time. Oh, I feel like, is that bad? I eat a shocking amount of ramen noodles on a regular basis. I probably eat it 3 to 5 times a week. And if any of you are like, well, that's a lot. I mean, have you had shinramen before? It's really good. But especially in the wintertime, I'm cold. I just came back from a run. Like I can't feel my fingers. And I just want like very, very hot food, like temperature hot food. It's really good. Adam Voigt says, hi, folks. New marathon PR at Munster Marathon in Germany by 15 minutes. Excellent work. Where's Munster Marathon? 3:27:20. Great time. Fantastic. Was it hot or is it like normal temperatures now? Okay. Mark as an American tells me how to say, how to understand if they're Australian. But I don't think this is true, but it's sometimes true. He says, if they say no, like no, I don't even know how to say that. I always think of it as an R at the end, like a nor. That's Australian, right? I hear that. I can hear that. I heard someone, because I was like consuming a lot of Sydney content for a while. And someone was telling me that like Beijing Chinese and Sydney Australian are kind of the same because there's like an R in everything, weirdly. And I was like, that sounds kind of funny, but I don't really understand the Beijing Chinese any Chinese, and I didn't like couldn't understand like the things that they were saying in Australian English, but it sounded funny. Uh, Wayne says your GIs are solid. Fizzy pop, full bags of chips. I'm impressed. I used to have a real iron gut. I mean, I still can run pretty well on a very full stomach. I feel like I don't know. I feel like maybe that's why I should try to run more ultras. But like, I mean, I could eat like my daughter. I'll be like, hey, you should probably eat something before practice today, or you should probably eat something before your cross country meet. Like, here, eat this. And she's like, no, it's like in an hour. It'll feel weird in my stomach. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I could eat on the starting line, and I'll be fine. And then she's like, that's not me. I'm like, okay. All right. Terry says, we say good morning and the convicts say good day. Oh, that's funny. I don't know if that's really mean or not, but yeah. Mm. And Mark says, I feel like Ben Johnson is a ramen or pho kind of carb loader. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've really seen him eat a lot of noodles before a race. He enjoys sushi, and he'll have that a lot. But I don't know if he has that before a race. What did he I think he had. I think he had bibimbap before we ran grandma's together that time. Oh yeah, he does. No, he does. He does have a lot of like noodles and soups before racing. I don't know if it's his pre-race meal, like the night before, but yeah, you're right. You're right. He does. Um, yeah, I feel like I don't know. I feel like we're overlooking white rice, especially the kind that I like Korean white rice, sticky rice. It's really delicious. I also do like onigiris or hand rolls or anything like that. Sushi. It doesn't have to be nice, just from the grocery store. You know what I mean? I'll have a bunch of those. Um, like what like two people would eat, maybe three people would eat. That's what I would eat for dinner. I feel like that's good because you're getting a lot of salt, you're getting a lot of carbs, and it just feels like it doesn't feel too heavy. You know. Mm. Calvin spelling Australian no as Naur. See, that's how it sounds like to me. No, nar. Yeah. All right. And AJ says Jim Walmsley and Katie Scheide clean up at World Championships. Both got gold medals. That's pretty cool. I saw some of it online over the weekend, but I didn't watch a ton of it. But it looked like Jim was doing well from what I was able to see. All right. Paul Public says, guess what? My longer races to beat the kids approach may be done. My son ran 42:51 at a 10K last week, 5 minutes faster than in May. I ran 45 each time. All right. Well, good job to your son. 42:51. Nice. And 5 minutes faster than earlier in the summer. It's crazy. Elva says, first time New York City Marathon runner this year. Any tips for the course? Uh, yeah, I mean, it's a hard course. There's a lot of hills. I would say make sure you're run for even effort. Um, and if you're feeling really good early on, just temper that enthusiasm. Like, save it for later. Save it for later, you know? Because it's very easy to get overexcited on the course. The energy level is just so high. And that back half of that course is really tough. And it can get really hot if it's a warm year. So I would say save everything for the second half. Calvin says that Yuki Kawachi eats a large helping of Japanese curry with rice for his night before meal. I feel like I could eat that. I feel like I could eat that like maybe not every meal, but I could eat that every day. When I had it in Tokyo, I was like, oh, I forgot that there's this kind of curry. I've eaten it before, and I bought a box back in the ethnic aisle at my grocery store here in Crystal Lake. They have that like style of curry sauce, so I'm gonna make some and make my own curry rice. I guess they call it omo rice, right? But in Korean we call it kare rice. And so like I feel like that's really good. I'm not gonna put meat in mine, but I don't know if there's meat in the powder for the sauce packet, but I don't care. It's really good. I could see that because it's really salty and you're gonna eat just a bunch of rice for that. Cake Buds is training for the Miami Marathon in January and making hyper-realistic running cake content as I train. We can collab on running cake content and count the cake carbs. All right, Cake Buds. I think that's funny. It's like an is it cake kind of thing, huh? That's pretty awesome. Wayne says Korean convenience stores are gold mines. I've never been to a Korean convenience store. I mean, like, it's been a long time. I haven't been to Korea since like the early 90s. So it's been decades since I've been back. And like, I don't really remember Korean grocery stores, but I do remember like little Korean, like when we were in some smaller towns, like, I mean, bodega isn't even the right word for it, but like a little stall in the corner, like it's the size of a closet and it faces the dirt street, like those kinds of places. I remember lots of those. That's not the same, I think, that we were talking about for sure. But I feel like if I were to go to a Korean convenience store now, I would want a guide. I wouldn't want someone to be like, here's what you do. Like every time I see content and they're like, you know what you got to do? You got to go into this cooler and get this cup of ice with a piece of plastic on top of it, and then go into this other cooler and get this little packet of blue fluid, and then you open the one and dump it into the other, and then you blitz it somehow in some sort of store blender. Like, I'm like, how do you know that you're allowed to do any of that stuff? I feel like people will get mad if you opened up packages. But what I really want to do, I've been thinking about going to Korea. What I really want to do is I want to go to like a late night, like ramen hut, like a little thing where you just go in there. There's no people, but you just go in and you pay. Like it's like a vending machine / convenience store. I've seen those, right? I think I could probably eat 2 or 3. I'd probably eat, maybe not 3. Maybe I'd eat 2 at a time just to eat a variety of stuff, especially if it's late. Like that I really want to do. All right. Duke BB says, any advice for a high school runner, my son, who runs well in practice but struggles with races? I mean, it could be a couple of things. One, it could just be like, it could be a nerves thing. Maybe he's just psyching himself out and just unable to perform that way. And so like, and then like maybe some visualizations help. Like meditating or like visualizing an entire race. I mean, I guess if it's a cross country race, maybe not like an entire like 20 minutes, but like envisioning what it's going to be like through kilometer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the other thing could be that like, like I guess that could be related to, it could be, a lot of it could just be a pacing issue. Like maybe your son runs well in practice because like it's more controlled and even splits that they're trying to do, right? And so like maybe your son is going out way too hard and then struggling because, and like, well, like I don't understand why I can't run fast at the back half of the race when they, like went crazy at the front half. So a lot of that could be pacing. And I guess the third thing I guess is related to that is just like drill down into, like just trying to think of the races. It's just practice. It's just a time trial at practice. Get out there and run and have fun. And if you come in last, it's okay. Just go out there and like, so that's what I do with my problems with the 5K. I was like, I'm going to go out there, and if I have to walk the rest in, it's going to be fine. If I have to jog it in, it's going to be fine. And it helps. I still don't like 5Ks, but that's kind of was my thinking going into it as like, it's okay if I run a slow time. I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to run a bunch of slow times until I can run a fast time. So those are some things that I would think about. Oh, Cake Buds was on season 3 of Is It Cake? All right, we're gonna have to look into that. I'm gonna have to go watch. I'll go back and watch it. I'll go back and watch it. My kids love Is It Cake. Wayne says, I was in Korea last summer and fueled all my runs with their food. My wife guided me. Oh, that sounds so awesome. But I feel like it depends. I mean, Korea's so hot as well in the summer. Frank says, isn't Seoul a World Athletics Platinum race? I believe it is. It's an Adidas race. It's usually in March, I think. So I mean, I do prefer a spring race over a fall race. Okay. Jairus Roayos says, shoe question. Coming back from an injury last spring and shooting for 430 in Chicago in 2 weeks. I'm on the fence between using the Glycerin Max and the Endorphin Pro 3. Thoughts? I feel like it depends on where you are with the injury. You know, I think that the Glycerin Max 3 is going to be easier to run in. It's got a big wide platform. It's pretty stable, but it's also nice and soft. So I feel like I'm leaning towards that. The Endorphin Pro 3 is much more aggressive of a shoe. And so, like, depending on what the injury is, what the status of that injury is, it could exacerbate things. So I'm leaning towards the Glycerin Max for you. Stevie76 says Korean Air flight attendants are the best, especially with small kids. So when I went to Korea in the 90s, I went there with my parents. My parents left me there for like a month and a half, and they came back. It was over the summer. And then I flew back on my own, like an unattended minor, which is a long way to fly by yourself when you're like 11 or 12. Maybe I was 13. But the only thing that I remember from the entire flight is that there was sandwiches for one of the meals. Like little like tea sandwiches, like little triangles, right? And I thought they were really good. And I was starving for some reason. And so I'm eating these sandwiches and I asked them for another. I was like, is there more? Can I have another lunch? And they gave me a second plate of sandwiches, which is like a weird question to ask on an airplane. Now that I think about it, you know, not I've thought about it before, but like at the time I didn't think it was weird to just ask for seconds. Like, can I have more sandwich? So they gave me more sandwich, and then the side. So basically, the entire meal on this flight was like 3 or 4 of these little triangles of sandwiches. I don't even remember what was in the sandwich. Probably egg salad or something like that. And then there was these 3 little things on the side, and I thought they were grapes. And all summer long, I had been eating the Korean grapes, the kind that you don't eat the skin. You have to like kind of bite them, and then you pop the rest of it in your mouth, and they're really super sweet, and they taste like that grape flavored bubble gum that's super nice. And I thought that's what they were, and I pop them in, and it turns out they're olives, and then like the Okay. Are we back? Are we back, guys? Guys, I think we're back. I don't know. My internet just went out. It was really, really weird. Sorry about that. Okay. So, all right. So the end of that story. How far do we get with the stories? We got the story where I ate 2 plates of sandwiches. I'm like 11 or 12 years old. I eat the thing that I think is one of those grapes that you're not supposed to eat the rind. Instead, it's a salty olive with a pit in it. And the surprise of that flavor discrepancy was so shocking that I instantly vomited 2 lunches worth of sandwiches right onto my tray. And I think I had to sit like that. Well, they cleaned it up. They were really nice. Again, Korean Air. Flight attendants are super nice. They were kind to me. I don't remember them being like pissed off, you know? So I didn't feel like a puppy getting yelled at. I just feel like they were like, "Oh man, sorry, kid." And they cleaned me up. Although I feel like I still had vomit on me for the rest of the flight, and it was a long flight. So it was gross, but they were really nice. And then I do remember like someone escorting me off the plane to my parents, and then telling my parents in Korean about like what happened, and be like, "He's fine. He just threw up a lot on the airplane." Yeah. So that was it. But anyway, I look forward to one day taking Korean Air again. You know? Yeah. So we're back. So sorry about that, guys. All right. Let's get to some unboxings before I lose the internet again. My internet was funky this morning too. I was trying to watch some videos and like all of a sudden it stopped like working. But yeah. Wayne says, I had a guy spill drinks on me not once but twice during a flight. At least you kept it to yourself. Yeah. Oh, on my way home from Tokyo, the flight attendant spilled wine like all over the woman next to me, and she was super cool about it. He was like, "I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. Like, what can I do? Like, what do you need?" And she's like, "Do you have? Can I have a different blanket? This blanket is now soaked." And he's like, "Yes, absolutely." And he's like, "What else can I do to make this right? I'm really sorry." He felt so bad about it, and she's like, "It happens. It's okay. It was white wine. It's not going to stain. You know, I'm not that wet. It'll be okay. I've got a fresh blanket now, so I'm okay." And he was like, "I'm really sorry." And she took it like a champ, and I was like, "Wow, you were like the nicest person that I think is on this airplane." I guess it couldn't have happened to a nicer person, but yeah. All right. Yeah. Calvin says, if it was white wine, then nothing of value was spilled. You don't like white wine, Calvin? That's an odd like line to draw in the sand, I guess. I don't know. All right. Thomas wants a box. All right. We've got only things that I bought myself today. So let's start with this one here. I don't need a pocket knife for this one. This one has one of the tear open things, which I kind of like, but then it usually means that like the box is awkward to break down if you got to break it down and put it in your recycling. And do you guys have to break down your recycling? For those of you that live in suburbs like I do now, like in the city, we always had to break down our boxes. So I'm still used to doing it, and I still do it. But like it seems like none of my neighbors break down boxes. So you'll see like the 2 bins on garbage day. A garbage bin and then the recycling bin next to it. And then there'll be a stack of boxes. Like I don't know what's up with that. Thomas says, yes, we do have to break down boxes. Yeah. So I don't understand what my neighbors are doing. But okay. First one. And Calvin says, do you recycle properly? AK, you can't actually recycle pizza boxes because of the grease. I do not recycle pizza boxes. But our recycling is mixed. Like glass and plastic can go on the same bin as the regular. So I'm like, I never know how much I have to clean stuff. So like a used up Nutella container, I will clean it out. Make sure there's no Nutella in there. Same thing with like if I use up ketchup, barbecue sauce, salad dressing, I'll clean it all out. But I don't scrape off the labels. Am I doing it right? I have no idea. I never know. Yeah. AJ says, got a $50 fine because my box got stuck in the trash chute. Yeah, see, that's how we used to live too, you know. And Sonny says, we don't, but it's a force of habit from working retail. They don't have to, but you do. I feel like you can also, I have a lot of recycling, mainly because of unboxings and stuff. So I wouldn't be able to fit it all otherwise. And even then, I usually have to kind of like ration it out. Like, oh, we got a lot of this week. So I'll have to put some of these boxes in next week. Werner Will says, I break it down, but I put them in the biggest box. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And Calvin says, in Japan, they're crazy strict about recycling and trash, like 4 different bins for each type. It gets overwhelming for sure, you know. Terry says, the right way to do it is clean, but no label scraping. We have 3 bins, general recycling and compostable. I wish we had compost. Where was I? I just walked by somewhere the other day where they were like, do you have compost? Bring it here. I think it was at the climbing gym. I want to make sure. But I'm like, am I supposed to just bring like a bag of garbage to put in your bin? That doesn't sound right. But they just opened up a community garden, and so maybe that's why they want more compost. I don't know. All right. Anyway, let's get to the first box. Again, this is one I bought myself because I'm just tired of waiting for Adidas to send it to me. Back at Boston Marathon, they gave me a pair of Boston 13s, but it was the wrong size. And I ran in it, and I was like, I don't love this, and I don't want to say that I don't love this shoe because of the fact that it's the wrong size. And I suspect that it might be because it was the wrong size. So I asked, I think twice. And they're just like, yep, it's coming. And it's never been coming. So I just bought it myself. And here it is. It's not the same colorway as what I had, but it is the Boston 13. And I don't love this color. It's very, very bright. But I figured it matched the Prime X Strong 3, which I also don't love that color because it's very, very bright. But now they're matchy-matchy. So smells like a shoe. Smells like the rubber and plastic in a shoe. But it's pretty breathable up here. And I do feel like this will work out a lot better for me because now it fits. On the bigger one that I had, it was only a half size too big. I felt like this part of the upper kept collapsing in with each step, and it felt awkward. And so hopefully I will like this more. But I'm also just trying to get into the mindset that the Boston will never go back to being the Boston that I first fell in love with. It's a different shoe now, you know? And Calvin says, Co will wait long enough for Adidas to retro the Boston 8 for him to like the Boston again. I'm trying to get over it. It's not coming back, Calvin. It's not coming back. We just gotta get used to this new kind, you know? Laura says, I tried those with Herm back in April and wasn't happy. And Herm says, it's incredibly fine, but mostly agree. Yeah. Okay. I think I'll like it more than the Boston 12. I did like I wore it around all day of Boston Marathon day. And then I did a bit of running in it with Tommy Runs as we were going around the course. And it was fine, you know? But like, some people are still loving this Boston 13. And I do think that it could be a good long run kind of shoe for some people. I think the Prime X Strong 3 is the best long run shoe. But for people that are like looking for a different kind of experience, I just put it in my Cloud Boom Max review, you know, as a good long run option. And I think that's kind of how I'm approaching this shoe. I've sometimes called it the best max cushion shoe that Adidas makes, and that got people mad. So let's see. Open Quote says, Boston desperately needs to lose the carrier foam. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, if you remove the carrier foam and make this all Light Strike Pro, then you pretty much have an Adios Pro 3. Although the geometry is quite different. Maybe you have an Adios Pro 4. That's the problem of it, you know? So, yeah. If you lose the carrier foam, then it's just an Adios Pro of some variety. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think they need to figure out what they want to do with it, what they want Boston to feel like, because as Wayne, I mean, why is it named Boston? I think names mean something, right? So I feel like they went with Evo SL, but they really could have just made the Evo, if they called the Evo SL Boston 13, I would have gone nuts for that. But I also went nuts for the Evo SL, so that's fine. But yeah. But now I can kind of give it a real test in the correct size. So there'll be no excuses if I don't like it. But I'm also trying to keep in mind, it's not going to be like the Boston 8 and Boston 9 that I really, really loved. It's not going to be like a DV8 Nitro. It's not going to be like an Endorphin Speed. They're just not going there anymore. We got to get over it. Sean Devlin says, I ran Boston Marathon course start to finish in the Boston 7, the yellow and blue with the BA logo on them. Yeah, see, I feel like, yeah. But here's the thing, and I don't know if this is gaslighting or what is it called when they're being like revisionist on it? I guess it's gaslighting, right? This year in the Adidas Hub, which I thought was cool, and I think this was the first year that Adidas did like an off-campus Adidas Hub, right? And by campus, I mean the expo, right? They did have like a little section on the Boston, like going over the history of it. And you know, I love like looking at old shoes. So I'm looking at this and like the way that at least this diorama, it wasn't a diorama, like this exhibit made it look like they were just like the way that the Boston was initially sold and marketed was as it's just a daily trainer. And we just happened to call it Boston. We just picked that out of kind of random. So they were just like, oh, it's a daily trainer, just like Pegasus, I guess. You know, like, but like, is that right? I feel like that's not how, like, when I first started paying attention to the Boston around number 7, I don't feel like that's how they described it back then, you know? I don't know. Race Day Running says, have you watched the Puma versus Adidas documentary? I had no idea they were started by brothers. Yeah, I knew they were started by brothers. I don't know which documentary you're talking about. I probably have watched it. I also feel like, what's that guy's name? He's on TikTok, but I see it because his stuff goes on Instagram too. And he always explains everything. And that was one of the funniest explanations of the Puma Adidas rivalry, dichotomy kind of split thing. Rudolph Dossler had a problem. That guy? That was a funny one too. But I've also been to like the Adidas headquarters and they talk about it in their like history of Adidas or Adidas, you know? So yeah, so there's that. It's fun. All right, let's get to the next box. Okay. You know, I don't know what the audio is going to be like for this with the gap in the middle. Because when the internet was down, I just started talking into the microphone. And I know you guys on YouTube didn't get it, but I wonder if the people that are listening to this on the later but not live will hear me just mumbling into the microphone. I'm like, oh, I wonder if my internet's working or not. My meniscus hurt says, isn't Adidas buying Puma? I was thinking about that today on my run. I think it was Footwear News reported on that. That Puma is in trouble, apparently financially in trouble, which I didn't think so. I mean, and why would I think so? It seems like that they're nailing it, right? I mean, I don't know about the rest of their business, but from the running side and then just from seeing Puma marketing generally from like their like sports style side, right? Because like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't as big a hit as I thought, but I feel like everyone watched the Gran Turismo movie. No? I mean, Dakota Lindworm watched it and now she's a Puma athlete, you know, but like, you know, that's, I don't know. Every time I see Dakota, I say champagne is for the podium, and we giggle about it. It's a little inside joke. But that's where that comes from, because Puma was like the corporate sponsor for that movie, which was all corporate sponsors, right? I mean, it was a movie about a video game. Not really, yes and no. But anyway, so there was that. I mean, they're huge in F1, and I feel like F1 got really big, right? And so there's that. And then I feel like the run product is doing great. And they're sponsoring Team Jamaica. So they've got the sprint side on track and field. They got the distance side with their athletes. I don't know. And the product is really good. I could say top to bottom. I mean, of their performance run product, right? I don't know about any of the other stuff like basketball, soccer. Like, I don't know if they're any good or not. But like, I feel like in the silos that matter to me, and by silos, I mean like the business units, not silos like Nike Pegasus Premium, but like in those kinds of silos, like performance run, just general sports style, F1. I feel like those are good. Not that I watch that much F1 anymore. Anyway. Nick Newland says, read Sneaker Wars. It's on Disney Plus. Is that a real thing? Okay. Calvin says Puma Soccer hasn't done super well. Their basketball athletes aren't big names either, and of course their running shoes are great but niche. Interesting. Open quote says, state of Puma hasn't been talked about in football for a while. They gambled big on lifetime contracts for Neymar and lost huge market share since. And Raquel Escatel says, I only watched Gran Turismo because Dakota talked about it. Yeah, she watched it I think she watched it. I think she's watched it many times. Anyway. And Calvin says, they're not in store. Puma's not in stores like Fleet Feet. I think that's because they had a hard time. They started coming back like 2019, like right before the pandemic. And then their turnaround started happening during the pandemic, and like they had major supply chain problems. I guess because they were new in the run space, like they weren't getting priority when it came to like supply chain problems. And so it was impossible to get their stuff. And then I feel like they couldn't get into retail, probably because they probably couldn't supply them. Anyway. And Fiona said they're not in Dick's Sports either. I know. But like, there's a lot of brands there's a lot of shoes that I like that are not in Dick's Sports. I don't know. But yeah, I was thinking about it today. I was thinking about like, just like the interviews that I do. I just recently interviewed Reed Fisher. And I sent that off to, I've been working with Brandon Rossi to get, to have some help on editing interviews. And I was thinking, like, I normally don't like to interview brands. I'm like, can I get someone from Puma on to talk about that? But I'm like, they're not going to talk about that. No one's going to want to make a comment. So I'm like, yeah. But I'm like, would Adidas buy them? Remember, they used to have Reebok for a long time, and then they spun them back off. So I don't know. Johnny says, I'm guessing Puma running needs to be propped up by lifestyle product in the same way Adidas running is propped up by lifestyle. So if they're not selling to the wider consumer, then who are they selling to, I guess, is the end of that ... that you had in there. And Calvin says they don't have the mass market sales like Hoka or On that have blown up casually. That's true. I feel like Puma lifestyle is not popular in the US. I see it everywhere in Europe, but I don't see it in the US. In fact, Puma casual is usually how I can one of the ways that I can like kind of spot a tourist in the US. Or if I'm abroad, like a world major marathon, and we're all tourists, I can spot the European ones from the American ones, usually by Puma casual. I don't know. All right. And I think this will be interesting for the unboxing coming up next. ISC wants to know thoughts on Salomon S-Lab Phantasm 2. I watched your video about them a few months ago. Looked like a cool niche shoe, but how does it compare to what's on the market today? I feel like it feels very dated. It felt dated when it first came out. It kind of reminded me a lot of the Hoka Rocket X2, which again felt dated and also firm when it came out. which I think was that before or after SF Phantasm 2, but I don't know. But yeah, that's another one where I'm like, okay, it seems like Salomon has had an infusion of energy, let's say, recently with the Aero Glide and the Aero Blaze. The Aero Glide, I think, is a much needed shoe, but the Aero Blaze, I'm like, oh, this is nice. I like that one a lot. And so like, but those are very different than everything else that Salomon offers for the road. And so I'm like, okay, will there be an update to the SLab Phantasm 2? What does that look like for Salomon? So I would love to see that one updated because I do think it's on the too firm side for 2025. All right. Calvin says Adidas should just take the Deviate and make that the Boston. I mean, I've been saying for how long that, like, why is the Boston going the direction that Boston is going when Puma has the Deviate, and that feels exactly like what I want a modern Boston to feel like. If they bought it, imagine if Adidas bought the Deviate. If Adidas bought it, would they just take all the stuff? Like, what would that even look like? Because you're thinking they should like cannibalize the stuff, but I was thinking they would just own both, like Adidas owned Reebok, or like Nike owns like Hurley and Converse, or they did anyway. I'm not sure if they still do. And operate them as separate companies under the same kind of umbrella. But like, what do you do? What do you do with this? Does the Puma Fast R3 just become like Takumi Sen 12? That's not a bad idea. Except this is a marathon shoe, and the Takumi has not been. I know, but then the Evo 3 could then become, just call it Super Takumi, or just bring back Evo 1 as Super Takumi. Oh, that's still Adidas and Adidas. Never mind. I'm not even talking about, that doesn't even make sense. I have Takumi on my mind because I just made that review. But I don't know. I think that's the only one that really. But I mean, then is like the Magnify become an Ultra Boost? I don't know. I don't think anything works other than Deviate. And Herm says you could have the Evo SL Max. It's just a Mag Max. I think that would work. I don't know. Calvin says Adidas really buying a whole company so they have a Max cushion shoe. Yeah, because then it would make sense. Because the Mag Max and the Magnify, which I ran in today, which is normally sits in this spot on the shelf, but I ran into that today, and that one, I feel like I really like it, but it's not that different from a Mag Max. So if you gave the Mag Max to Adidas, I don't know, SL Max probably makes the most sense. Then Adidas would have a real Max cushion shoe. Interesting. All right. Shaheen says, shoe question. I have 200 miles on my Puma Deviate Elite 3. Should I run it for Valencia Marathon if I don't add any more miles on it till the race? I think 200 miles is a lot. But on a Deviate Elite 3 though, that's going to have a little bit more life than a Nitro Elite. A Deviate. Wait, Deviate Elite 3. So we're talking about the race shoe. These names drive me nuts. So the Deviate Elite 3 is the race shoe. But that ATP lasts a long time. I think you could. I think you could race in it. I also think it'd be fun to get a fresh pair. That's just me. But I'd probably get a fresh pair. But given how long Puma's ATPU is lasting, I'd say I think you're probably fine. But Calvin brings a good point. Kind of related to what I was saying, like it'd be fun to just get a new pair. Isn't Valencia not for a while? I would personally try and budget for a new shoe for race day. It is 9 weeks away, something like that. 10 weeks away. It's 10 weeks away, I think now. Yesterday was 10 weeks, I think. So it's pretty close. But yeah. All right. Okay, let's get to the unboxing today because we were talking about Salomon. So I am going to be going on I think I'm going to go. My management's been telling me that they've been working it out. But I think I'm going to go on a media trip with Salomon soon. So I felt like I needed to get some more just stuff. So here's what I'll be wearing while I'm going. This is stuff that I bought. I felt like I needed more, like, I have like trail running clothes from Salomon from when I did that Aspen trip, but I need like just regular or more regular-ish looking clothes. I don't know if I don't think this is sports style. I think it's actually from like just outdoor collection, hiking or whatever. It feels like, it's stretchy, like athleisure. And it's lined on the inside, so hopefully it's cool enough in France where we're going for me to warrant this. And I'm not sure if the sizes. Yeah, but it also has belt loops. So like, is it pants? Is it athleisure? I'm not sure. But this is one of the things that I got. Calvin says it looks like hiking pants. I think that's it. And then I'm pretty sure they're hiking pants. And then I wanted to get some of their sports style shoes since I feel like, here's the thing. Gorpcore and like Asians, for a lot of people, it doesn't work. And it especially doesn't work for me. I feel like that was an unfortunate time for us in the late 90s when Gorpcore like first kind of hit the scene. And so when it came back, I was like, I'm not sure about this. But again, I wanted to have something to wear that wasn't just like my trail shoes. So I got the pair of these. And I like them more in the pictures than I do holding them. I might have to get something else. But I did get them a size up as well because I am going to be wearing these around casually. So that'll be hopefully nice and comfortable. Big chunky heel, lots of great lugs. But it's from the sports style collection, so it's not a hiking shoe, but it looks like a hiking shoe. But I like the colors. A lot of times these colors don't work on me, but I'm thinking these colors and those pants maybe. Yeah. Johnny Dudgeon says, are you heading to Annecy? It's a beautiful place. I'm not exactly sure on the full itinerary. I think we will be stopping in Annecy for a little bit, which I'm looking forward to. And I'm hoping it's nice and like briskly chilly while I'm up there. Yeah. AJ says that Salomon sports style shoes always end up at Nordstrom Rack. I feel like there's so many, and that's been like my critique of like Salomon trying to capitalize on their sudden surge in popularity, is that like it's a French brand. They make great clothes, and the imagery that they use to sell their sports style shoes are great. But like, where are the clothes? What are they wearing when there's photographs? It's not for sale. I don't know where to get it. I want to get some of those clothes. And also, like, what does Salomon look like in sports style? Is it just retros of their previously existing product? Like, I think that I'm trying to see the vision, So anyway, Matt says, what's going on, Matt? He says, I think the size up was a good call. You can wear big warm socks if you want to, or just wear things looser than you would if you were rocking a speed workout on the track. That's what I think too. Salomon sends me trail shoes sometimes at my size and sometimes a half size up. And I tend to enjoy the ones that are a half size up. They feel less precise to me. They feel less Salomon, but I'm like, maybe my American feet just need this little bit more space. And so like, especially if I'm going to fly like in a pair of Salomon shoes over there, I'm going to definitely want to size up on that. So I'm glad that you were backing me up on that one, that I made the right choice. Calvin says, sizing up will be great to let the toes splay while you're shoveling the snow off your driveway in these this winter. I mean, they'll work they're sports style, but it doesn't mean they're not functional. I mean, look at this tread. I mean, I probably, I know you're joking, but I probably will be wearing these in the winter. Except like that, this is very airy. It smells more like cloth than it smells like plastic, but this toe cap is fierce up at the front here. There's a lot of overlays and stuff and plastic on this shoe, and it's heavy, but I feel like the top is nice and breathable. So we'll see. Calvin wants to know, is it Conta Grip? Yes, it is. It's Conta Grip. Right there. Makara Boardman says, hi, everyone. Been way too long since I've caught a live. Of course, I catch you all close to the end. Well, better late than never. I'm glad to see you here. All right. Yeah, Jonathan Simon says, Salomon was acquired by Anta, a Chinese group. Yeah, I feel like, and that group has like some of the biggest market cap for like sports stuff, right? It's bigger. It's almost as big as Nike at this point, that large group, right? It's just gigantic. There's a lot of stuff under that umbrella as well. Yeah. All right. I think that's going to be a good place to leave it for today, guys. I will weigh the Boston 13. Hopefully you guys will trust me and we can put it onto the board next time on Thursday, which I will remember to have. I don't have any other interviews scheduled for Thursday, so it should be easy for me to remember Thursday. Live stream is when I'll see you guys next time. Tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, I'll have the Metaspeed Ray video up, so that could be something I know a lot of you guys were waiting for. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. All right, guys, until Thursday, see you soon. Bye.